Hi everyone, in this video we will take a look at the following 3 points. Firstly, we'll go through why is high inflation undesirable, followed by a real-life case study of hyperinflation. We'll then end off with the benefits of low inflation and the reasons why low inflation is one of the government macroeconomic objectives. First of all, let us take a look at what exactly is high inflation. High inflation occurs when inflation rate ranges from double digit to triple digits. When there is high inflation, for an economy to function properly, there is a need for updates of pricing information to be constant so that the economy can adapt to the price changes. There are thus many negative consequences to high inflation in the following 4 areas of consumption and investment, efficiency, redistribution of income, and balance of payment. Zooming into consumption and investments. As prices rises, consumers prefer spending as goods will be more expensive in the future. This means that as consumption increases, incentives to save falls. As a result, there will be lesser funds available for firms to borrow. In addition, the cost-push inflation will lead to firms being less willing to invest as they are uncertain about the firm's future profitability. Overall, high inflation will thus lead to an increase in consumption, which may further worsen demand pull inflation if the economy is operating at full capacity. In addition, there's also a fall in investments, which lead to lower productive capacity of the economy. Secondly, high inflation will also lead to lower efficiency as the economy incurs both shoe leather costs and manual costs. Shoe leather costs in this case refers to the cost of time and effort that people spend to counteract the effects of high inflation. For example, in order to hold lesser cash, they will tend to make regular trips to bank to withdraw cash instead. On the other hand, manual costs are costs to a firm from changing its prices. With rapidly rising prices, firms will now have to spend resources constantly revising and updating their price on the menu. High inflation will also result in redistribution of income as prices tend to increase at different rates for different factors of production. As a result, certain group of people will benefit at the expense of others. For example, variable income earners whose income are fee-based, like doctors and lawyers, are able to raise their charges to keep up with inflation, while fixed income earners whose incomes are fixed by wage contract suffer from falling real income as prices rises. Borrowers also tend to benefit at the expense of lenders as debt in real term has fallen. Firms also benefit at the expense of households as product prices tend to rise with demand while consumers' wages are often fixed. Lastly, trade union workers through collective bargaining are able to fight for higher wages, while non-unionized workers suffer as they are unable to bargain for higher wages to compensate for inflation. Lastly, high inflation will also mean that the cost of the country exports increase due to higher cost of production. As a result, price of exports increase and demand for exports will fall. In addition, countries itself will also turn to more imports as prices of domestic goods increases due to higher inflation. Overall, high inflation will cause the country to lose its exports competitiveness, which results in a fall in export expenditure and a rise in import expenditure. All this will cause the net exports to fall and balance of trade will deteriorate. Now, many will be wondering, does high inflation really exist? Let us now take a look at Zimbabwe, a country in South Africa that once has the highest inflation rate in the world. Zimbabwe inflation had once rocketed to 231 million% in July 2008 and 79 million% in November 2008. So, what does this actually mean? Well, it actually means that smaller notes is now in millions. The prices needed to buy just necessities alone will cost them billions of Zimbabwe dollar. In order to further understand the situation, let us take a look at the news report from Zimbabwe itself.
July 30th, and with the stroke of a pen, there were no more trillionaires, quadrillionaires or quintillionaires in Zimbabwe. This followed the slashing of 10 zeros from the Zimbabwean currency by the central bank. The redenomination of the currency meant that $1 trillion turned into just $100, $100 billion into $10, and $10 billion into just $1. The move was aimed at curbing hyperinflation, but it appears it has had no effect on the economic disaster in the once prosperous Southern African country. The rate of inflation continues to skyrocket. The Central Statistics Office in Harare puts the inflation rate at 11.2 million%, the highest in the world. Experts believe it could be much higher. But just what does an 11.2 million% rate of inflation mean? In Harare, they call it the hour economy. Prices of goods change by the hour. It has been a gradual increase in prices of goods. In November last year, when the governor of the central bank slashed off 3 zeros from the currency, a loaf of bread and other basic commodities cost a few hundred Zim dollars. By December, you needed hundreds of thousands of dollars to buy a bread. By January, a loaf of bread and things like tomatoes were costing millions. By April, it was billions.
After understanding the situation, would you hope to avoid hyperinflation in Singapore? How would you feel if Singapore were to experience hyperinflation like Zimbabwe? Would you like the feeling of seeing your money becoming worthless? Hence, to sum it off, one of the reasons why government wants to have low inflation is to avoid the negative consequences of high inflation. Furthermore, there are also many benefits to low inflation, which I will go through in the next few slides. We can look at the benefits of low inflation in 4 areas, namely, how it increased economic growth, how it helped to improve efficiency, how it helped to preserve the value of money, and lastly, how it promotes trade. Firstly, low inflation can lead to higher economic growth. With stable prices, business confidence increases due to greater certainty and better projections about profit. This will lead to higher investments, which increase both the AD and the national income. Higher investments also increases the productive capacity of the economy, which results in an increase in the long-run aggregate supply. Secondly, low inflation can also help to reduce shoe leather costs and manual costs, increasing the efficiency of the economy. Low inflation can also help to preserve the value of money. This means that the real purchasing power will not be eroded. Standard of living and real income can also be maintained, lowering the pressure of cost of living adjustment. More importantly, low inflation can also help to promote trade. With lower inflation, prices of exports are cheaper, which increase the export competitiveness of the country. Assuming that demand is price elastic and price of exports are lowered, export revenue will now increase more than proportionate, which increases AD. All this will help to promote trade and the economy to achieve favorable balance of trade. Hence, low inflation brings about great benefits in these 4 areas. With this, let us end off with a thinking question. As we know, low inflation and high economic growth are both important macroeconomic goals of the government. However, do you think that there's a conflict between these 2 goals? If there's indeed a conflict, how does the government still ensure that it meets these 2 goals? Take a minute to think about the answers and we will address this question in the next video. In the next video, we'll also look at the conflicts between the various macroeconomic objectives and the policies that the government can adopt to achieve low inflation. Stay tuned to the next video. Thank you.